So, today we are summarizing a movie entitled Jean de Florette, and its sequel, Manon des Sources. Now, it's a French movie, at least the original version is French, but it's one of my favorite movies. So I'm gonna give you the broad strokes because it's been a while since I actually saw it. But the plot goes like this. So it's the story of countryman, basically someone that lives in a remote area of France where there's no electricity, that's for sure. So this older man has a nephew that comes to visit him. So his nephew comes to visit him, actually comes to live with him. And he asks his nephew, like, so what are you gonna do? You're getting older now. You ain't got no wife, no girlfriend in the horizon. Like, what are you gonna do with your life? So the young man says, well, yeah, I've got no girls because I need to make money. And he's like, I have a plan for making money. And his plan is to grow a garden of roses. That's his plan. So it's to grow roses and sell them roses, and he's gonna make money with this. Alright, that's his plan. So the thing, however, is that on the property, which is a huge property in the remote areas of France, this particular nephew and uncle, they don't have any water. However, by exploring the neighborhood, they discovered that their neighbor has a source of water. So their plan is to buy the property off of their neighbor without telling the neighbor that they want to buy it because there's a source of water and because they want to grow a garden, right? Because actually that neighbor's property is so big that it's likely that the neighbor doesn't even know he has a source of water. So they go to the neighbor, and it just happens that the neighbor and them are not in very good terms. The neighbor is like, no, I'm not selling you my property. Matter of fact, you know, I don't even know why you're talking to me. Because we haven't been talking to each other. What are we, friends now? Anyway, it just so happened that the neighbor, during that conversation, he was up in a tree picking up some fruits and stuff. He falls down the tree and he kills himself. So now the neighbor is dead. So the uncle and the nephew, they think quick and they're like, okay, now that the neighbor is dead, it's gonna be easier for us to buy the property. We just gotta wait for the heir to kind of want to sell the property, right? And just to make sure that the heir don't want to keep the property, they decide to close off the source that's on that neighbor's property. They pour some cement over the source of water so that when the hair, most likely the son of the neighbor, come, they're like, there's not much to it. Why don't we just sell the property, right? So that's what they do. So now, the source is closed off. Now, the heir to that neighboring property, he comes, and it just turns out that he actually was a man that used to live in the city, but he was tired of living in the city. He wanted to live in the country. That was his whole plan. His new move in life was to just turn his back to city life. So he's very determined to make a new life in the country. So he's not trying to sell the property. But the nephew, whose plan was to grow a garden of roses, is very determined to his goal, to his dream. Right? So he's trying to persuade the city man turned countryman to just go back to the city. Forget about living in the country, especially because there's no water running on the property. So why don't you give up this country life that you're thinking about living? But like I said, the city man, his name is Jean de Florette. Alright? And so Jean de Florette is very determined to make his country life work. And so every day he's hollering buckets of water for miles and miles, because that's where the nearest source is. He doesn't know that he has a source on his property, so he hollers buckets of water to try to make his garden work, because his dream of a country life is to have a garden as well, not of roses, but he's trying to grow other stuff, right? Just stuff that's gonna help him survive, basically. So he's hollering buckets every day, and mind you, he's a hunchback. Jean de Florette is a hunchback, so it's very hard on, on his whole life, this type of exercise. Eventually, due to the complication of having to go far away to get water and all that, and trying to provide to his family, like his newborn baby and his wife, he dies. Alright, he dies, and it's clear in the story that his death is closely linked to the fact that he was not able to get water easily. Alright, so following all that, the sequel, which is Manon des Sources, kind of starts, right? And Manon des Sources, who's Manon? Manon is the daughter of Jean de Florette, the newborn baby, 10, 15 years later. That's her story now. And so in the meantime, what happened is the nephew, he was able to reopen the source and grow his garden of flowers, of roses, and his business is is working now. He's selling beautiful roses to the nearby village. Everybody likes him or whatnot, or buying from him, so everything is great for him. And it turns out that he actually falls in love for Manon, the source, his neighbor. And when I say he falls in love hard. Now, I told you I was giving you the broad strokes. Now, somehow Manon finds out that the source that's on her father who died, her father's property, she finds out that this source was intentionally closed by the nephew who's growing roses. So what happens now is that she plans on having some sort of a revenge. So now her revenge consists of going into the source of the village water, like the source of water for the whole village. She goes into that secret place and she closes that source. So now the whole village is thirsty and can't drink. They're right. So that's her revenge. So now the whole village is like, what the hell? How come we don't get any water? To make a long story short, eventually, she does reopen the source, but the nephew, he ends up admitting that he had closed the source, and therefore admitting that he was the reason for Manon the source's father to die. But he's like, I'm still in love with you. I'm madly in love with you. But she doesn't love him, she loves someone else. And so what ended up happening is the nephew kills himself. He kills himself because she doesn't love him. He kills himself because maybe it's part because he feels guilty of what he did in the past. Anyway, watch the movie. There's a lot into it. I just give you the broad strokes like I told you. It's a great movie. I hope you like it too. Peace.